you've posted a few times lately on Instagram about uh, women's hormones and like considerations for like certain phases of the month. Uh, uh, I don't know necessarily what my question is, but like, is there anything in particular you think like might be missed or getting underappreciated by like the female community in Hyrox?
Yes, well, I would say it's not even the female community. I think it is the world as a whole. I think we have spent a lot of time researching health, researching wellness, researching fitness, with the idea that people are people and what works for people. And to a point, that is true, but physiologically, men and women are built very differently. And that is not to say that one is superior, one is not. They're just different. They are very different. And the less that we try to treat everybody as the same, like it's not about, I mean, even like equality on this, everybody should be treated the same. You should be treated as the person that you are. And men's physiological makeup is so much different than women's physiological makeup. The way that they respond to, um, the way that they respond to input, the way that, like, not like, I don't know, literally everything is different. And so I am really big on like there's a lot of discomfort talking about women's health because so much of it is based around menstruation and cycle, which is kind of like an uncomfortable thing, and people don't wanna talk about that. Another important phase of their cycle is like ovulation, which people are like, "Okay, that's just for getting pregnant." Like, so much about women's hormones is seen to be in the reproductive, ideology thing of like, well, it's about babies, right? And, like, it is not about babies. It is about women, and it is about women's health. And I think especially in the athlete culture, there's so much of, like, trying to keep up and trying to, like, literally almost, like, downplay the fact that our hormones are so different and, like, women's hormones are very volatile and fluctuate a lot, and more kinda, like, downplay that, and, like, the less we have to think about that, which is complicated and it's, like, a lot to think about, the more we can just, like, okay, just try to be on all the time. I think it's really ignoring a huge part of women's physiology, like, circadian rhythm, everybody's aware of the circadian rhythm, 24-hour cycle, and there's everybody knows, like, in the health space, like, if you don't sleep, eat, and move a certain amount within those hours and kind of, like, understand the regulation of that, your body's not gonna be happy. Like, ignoring your circadian rhythm is not healthy for you now, long term, ever. And women are also, we're all on a circadian rhythm, but there is also an infradian rhythm, which is about 28 days, about it's the moon cycle. And women have like an entire second biological clock that is wrapped up in that. And so this whole idea of like, okay, well, like we understand 24 hours, certain things should happen within those 24 hours to maintain your health. At the same time, for women, they have another biological clock to factor in. And I just think there is not enough awareness and not enough like conversation around it. And so like, like, lucky enough, but also, like, I've read books and, like, cared about this enough to where, like, I have a very healthy hormone like, my hormone health is very great, and, like, I don't even, like, struggle with this, but I see so many people that are struggling with understanding, appreciating, and working with, like, their actual bodies. Like, you can't just ignore this and think that your body's gonna be fine. So, all that to say, like, I'm no expert, but it is something that I feel very strongly about, and I hate to see like and that's the thing is like, okay, well, it's easy to just kinda, like, shut this down and ignore it and, like, let's just focus on fitness. But when you are not cycling regularly, your body is not going through the hormone fluctuations that it needs to. It affects I mean, if it affects women very much both short term because in your menstruation years, you are doing so much like building up your health so that when you start to decline, everybody starts to decline at some point. If you don't let your body do all the building up during your prime years, you are starting that decline from a very much lower place than you should be. And so, bone health, brain health, like everything that matters, especially long term, is so, so affected by not understanding your hormones and your biological functions through, like, the crucial years of, like I mean, it's, like, 18 to 40 are, like, really important years, and yeah, so it's something that I've thought about for a while, and recently I had more conversations where I was like, "You know what? I've always kind of felt like I don't have the room to talk because I haven't experienced any of the negative side effects of this and the negative effects of this," but I'm like, "You know, like, I have, like, read and I do feel very strongly about it, and so I just want there to be more conversation, more awareness around it, and not seen as like, "Oh, well, then you can, like, modify, you can change." Like, I live my life exactly the way I want to, but with an awareness of, like, these things matter, And I think, yeah, I mean, kinda like you said, like, so many men, I mean, honestly, everybody are uncomfortable with like, "Oh, that sounds like a lot." Well, women have been left out of research studies for years because they're complicated, and I'm over that. Like, we're complicated, men are complicated, men's hormones also matter, like, like, less of the like, "Oh, it's complicated," and more of like, "Okay, let's dig into this." So, yeah.
Aside from uh like your Instagram and just like Google and everything, like is there any particular places like if someone's like, I want to read more on this, I want to understand this better, is there any particular
Um
places?
I read 2 books that were I felt very, like, educational for me. One is called In the Flow, and I forget who it's written by, and the other one is called Invisible Women by Suzanne somebody. I should know those. But those were 2 very interesting books on just kind of like yeah, more of, like, the information of, like, what's going on here and how like, what being I think that brings so much awareness, and from there, then you can take action. I've also worked I mean, on Instagram, um, I have 2 friends that, like, specifically work with women's hormones, so anybody that comes to me, like, I am not the expert, but I do know experts, and so Coach K Wellness, and then my friend, Tracy Rickstrew, I think her Instagram is, like, perimenopause something, she works more with, like, older women, but those I definitely have sources of, like, people that you should be talking to. It's not necessarily me, but we need to be talking, and you need to be talking to experts, and I think everybody should be educating themselves more on how we all work, and that's I mean, that's the other thing too is, like, women's hormones is something I can, like, actually speak to, but men's hormones also are very, misunderstood and not, paid enough attention to, so I think it's something all of us should be considering. That should be, like, the first line of, like, "Oh, something's a little off," like, "Where are your hormones at?" That is, like, your actual internal state versus, like, more ice baths and, whatever.